I know.
Hello, this is Alan Robinette. I'm the community librarian at Saline County Library. I'm here with Phyllis Tucker. She is a volunteer and advocate for CASA, which is the court-appointed special advocates. And the reason we're here is that they need help. They need volunteers. We're just going to cut right to the chase. But what I really want to talk about is what CASA does, how they impact the lives of children, and how volunteers themselves become impacted by CASA. So thank you for being here, Phyllis.
You're welcome, Alan. Thank you for inviting me.
I very much appreciate you being here. Let's kind of go back to the beginning a little bit. I want to talk about, first of all, what the mission of CASA is, what a CASA volunteer does, and then how you got started with CASA.
Okay. The mission of CASA is to be there and be the voice for the children, for our children who are in foster care, and to advocate for those children. And it's basically trained volunteers who come in, and we go and we're appointed by the judge to be the special advocate for these children.
Okay. So this isn't a government agency.
No.
This is purely volunteer effort, nonprofit.
Nonprofit.
Okay. And how did you get started with CASA?
Well, I'm a former educator, and I was a high school counselor, middle school counselor, a vocational special needs counselor. And so I've always advocated for kids. I'm going to say kids, not children, because to me, they're kids.
They're your kids,
they're
right?
Kids.
Sure.
And so when I retired, it's like, oh, I have time to do stuff now.
Right.
And so.
And when did you retire?
At the end of 2019.
Okay.
After all those years.
Okay.
And so I had a friend, actually I had two friends who had been CASAs and were, they talked about CASAs, and I thought, I think I want to do this, because being a voice for these kids who sometimes fall through the cracks is very important. And that's why I became a CASA.
Okay. Were you, now you knew people who had already done it.
Mm-hmm.
So you knew some of the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
You also knew some of the challenges.
Yes, I did.
And that didn't scare you off?
No.
Okay.
No.
So the benefits must be pretty good.
When you have the opportunity to possibly change a child's life, that's pretty powerful.
That is.
And, it's amazing what these kids go through. So many of these kids go through at home. It's neglect, abuse, just not being prepared for school, not going to school, not getting food, not having somebody to look after them.
All the things that most of us growing up thought this is normal.
Yeah.
You go home, you have dinner, you do your homework. Mm-hmm. Normal isn't normal sometimes.
No, it's not.
And so, when that happens, and when it gets to its, a more extreme level of that, mm-hmm. somebody needs to be a voice for those kids.
Exactly. And you just have to be there and get to know the kids. And we just, work as much as we can to help them out.
Well, let's talk about when you came on board, because there was this thing that happened in 2020. You might have heard of it.
COVID.
And that had to have impacted, first of all, in talking to you earlier, I know that, and in talking to other people at CAMCAC or other organizations that deal with child trauma, mm-hmm. The trauma was magnified during COVID in a lot of cases.
It was, and it still is. We're seeing the effects of that now. Our reading scores in Arkansas have declined as a result of our kids not being in school with a person to person, in that classroom with that connection with the teacher. And some kids were probably not even doing classes online because of internet issues, that kind of thing. So yes, it did impact. Wow. And then again, going out to visit, because we make home visits to the biological parents if they're in the case, whatever with the children. We couldn't go for a couple of months and see our kids.
Well, and in a lot of cases, I say a lot of cases, you correct me if that's wrong, but in many cases, I would assume that means that the child is isolated with their abuser. Potentially.
Could be.
And that, in some cases.
In some cases. Now, of course, most of the children we work with are in care.
Right.
So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly better. I know that when speaking to the folks at CAMCAC, a lot mm-hmm. of the trauma came with the fact that, the children were isolated with their mm-hmm. abuser in some cases, and they didn't have that refuge of being able to go to school.
That's true.
And that can be a huge, huge issue. Talk a little bit about the training that you went through to become a CASA.
Well, we had a little informational meeting where we met with the director of CASA and the CASA supervisor and our recruitment person, and we talked about what was involved in being a CASA. And then I believe I had to fill out an application and have a background check because you have to have that clearance to go in and to do this
Of
kind
course.
of work. And then after got all of that done, then we did training, and we did like a whole one whole Saturday, just a full day of training on CASA. And then we had meetings one night a week for about 4 or 5 weeks. And then after we went through all of that, then we went before the judge and we were sworn in as CASAs.
Oh, was that a good day?
It was.
Had to be.
It
Had
was.
to be. I mean, that's a fairly rigorous training program.
It is.
But I suppose it has to be.
It has to be. And you learn so much. You know, you have sample cases that you read through, you work through with your students in the class with you. And so you learn. And I will tell you, after I went through that training, I appreciated my mother and daddy a lot more than I did before.
I bet you did. I bet you did.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of the things that if you are a CASA that you will be expected to do? What are some of the things that you're not able to do?
Well, first of all, our major responsibility is to go out and visit with the children, with the kids, and see how they're doing. We are required to put eyes on those children at least once a month.
Okay.
Make sure they're okay in their foster placement, or if they're placed with family members that can take the children. We go out, we visit with them. We also have to document what we have seen, and if there's something that is needed. Another thing that we can do that a lot of people don't realize that we can do is we can go out. If you have a student who is a special needs student and that student is on an IEP, which is an individualized education plan, or a 504 plan for a physical handicap, as a CASA, we can go sit in those visits with the team for that child in a school and advocate for that child.
In the school?
In the school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can also go, if the child is school age, or in school, we can go in, talk to the counselors. We have that kind of clearance with the appointment from the judge to go in and talk.
I've got to think that maybe just makes you the teacher's best friend.
Probably so.
I mean, that's got to be a support role that they, I would think, really appreciate.
It is.
Because there can be, and I was one of those kids. I had a hyperactivity disorder. I'm sure I was a disruption. Yeah.
I think you probably were.
what are you saying?
I know you.
So yeah.
And
I'll tell a story on myself.
Okay, tell me a story.
There was one rule.
What was that?
In my first grade class. One finger on the desk at all times. I could stand up, I could turn around, I could do jumping jacks. I had to have one finger on the desk at all times.
That was a modification.
It was. It was. And it was, I had a very, Mr. Bunnell, my first grade teacher. And so he was able to do that so that it wouldn't be a distraction to all the other kids.
And that worked.
It worked. And I could still learn and they could still learn.
Yeah.
And I could do jumping jacks if I wanted to. So
as long as you had that one finger.
And one finger on the desk, yes, which made it a little challenging. But now, how many hours a week do you generally put in as a CASA? And does that fluctuate? Do you need to have flexibility?
You do need to have flexibility. It depends. There may be, and we do go to court. We go to court, and when our case is up for the judge to have the hearing. So we go to court, but I also am required to write a report and a court report and submit it goes to the judge, and he will have my court report on what I have observed in the period between the last hearing and the current hearing.
Okay.
But it has to be flexible. You have to work with like foster parents. You have to, meet their schedule to go out and visit, that kind of thing. You have to do your reports. You may go out and talk to a mental health counselor because sometimes the kids need that, or a physical therapist, or,
Well, it sounds like what you're describing is a holistic report.
It is.
Not going out to make sure just that the
children are okay.
That they're okay.
Yeah.
You're talking about a holistic approach that this child is not just okay, but is in an environment where they can succeed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so nice when you see these children that first come into care, that the way they are after they have had stability, structure, regular school days, if they're in school, childcare, physical needs, medical needs, dental needs being met, all of that. It's wonderful to see those children.
To see that turnaround.
To see that turnaround, to see them happy, to see them not afraid. It's wonderful.
And that's where the blessing comes in.
That's exactly it.
Tell me a story, Phyllis. Tell me about a child who has changed you. Tell me about a case that has your perspective.
I have worked with a lot of children through the years, and I'm going to tell you this. I've always told my counselors, I've told my teachers when I worked with teachers, sometimes down the road it may be decades, it may be a few weeks, but sometime you will have one of your children, be it a student, be it a CASA, one of your kids, one of my kids, that will come back to you and say, you made a difference in my life.
Oh.
And it has happened.
Wow.
In fact, I've had 2 of my former students just come back after all these years, just recently, and say, thank you for what you did for me.
Were there tears?
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. But, it's as these children in care, I'm going to use the word warm up to you. Mm-hmm. Because it's hard to establish rapport with some of these children.
I've got to imagine they've got trust issues in their lives.
They've
been betrayed.
Yeah, and you have to work with that. And it's just the being there and letting them know that they can trust you and that you are there for them.
Okay. Now, CASA is a volunteer organization.
It is a volunteer organization.
But I know there are administrative costs and there are costs to doing that. How does CASA raise money? I'm so glad you asked that. We're going to have a Chili for Children cook-off October 25th. Oh, wow. So coming up soon.
Yes.
Okay.
A week from tomorrow.
A week from tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay. Is this a lunch? Is this a dinner?
It's a lunch. It's from 11 to 1 on Tuesday, October 25th at Northside Church of Christ here in Benton. And just come in. We'll have a lot of vendors. The chili is so good.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And we're getting to where chilly weather is kind of a thing.
Yeah, it is. So it'll be good. And what happens, we'll have some judges that will come and they'll make the determination on the best chili. So everybody's competing for the best chili.
Okay. Are all the slots filled?
Yes.
Okay. Do we?
Yes, Latoria.
Are they?
Yes, they are.
So we don't need anybody else to come in and cook chili.
They just need to come and eat chili.
There we go.
And
there we go.
There's
We're accepting silent donation items.
Oh yes, we do need silent. We have a silent auction. Thank you, Latoria. We have a silent auction, so there are people can bring those in and donate those, and it'll be a silent auction. So with that, and let's see.
What is the cost for the dinner?
$10.
$10. Okay.
$10.
Okay, and all of those proceeds go to CASA.
Go to CASA. It's our major fundraiser for the year.
Okay, very good.
So come eat chili.
Come eat chili at 917 Northeast Street.
Mm-hmm.
If y'all don't know where that is. Let's see, what other questions do I have for you? What can folks do? I mean, other than eat chili, what can folks do if they want to support? If somebody wants to become a CASA, who do they contact?
They can contact us, our CASA office. There is a phone number, and that is it's 501-436-6044. And they can also go on our website, SalineCountyCASA.org.
SalineCountyCASA.org. Okay.
And it's the best volunteering that you can do for a child.
There is so much need out there.
There is.
And sometimes it's difficult to decide, you want to put your effort towards something, and there's so many deserving causes, but I can't think of one that is more needed and more deserving. I know the cases statewide and the cases in Saline County, there's a backlog.
There is a backlog. I believe there's something like 4,300 cases in the state. And here in Saline County, we have 161 cases that CASA is covering.
No, we cover only 20%.
Oh, excuse me, 100. Well, 161 cases here in Saline County,
Wow.
and 29 CASAs, 29 CASAs to cover those.
Okay. And that's a lot because, again, you're
Yeah.
talking about a holistic approach with the kids.
Mhm.
So you would think 29 CASAs, 161 cases, 3 or 4 cases
Mhm.
per, but these are all volunteer.
All volunteer.
These are not full-time people with benefits, and these are all volunteer. And each one of these cases takes a concerted effort in order to, because
Mhm.
you can't shortchange these kids.
No. And also some of the CASAs work full time.
Okay.
So it's not just, yes, I'm luckily retired and can,
Sure.
so I can do that. But there are some folks that still work full time and still do this with their time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you want to get in touch with CASA, get in touch with, what's that website again?
SalineCountyCASA.com. .org.
.org. Okay, very good. If
.org.
that's something you're interested in learning more about, please do that. The website it's a very good website, and it will give you all of the information that you need. And if nothing else, come out and join us a week from tomorrow.
Yes, chili for
Chili.
children.
Sounds
And it's
fantastic.
wonderful chili.
All right. Thank you, Phyllis, for being with us this evening.
Thank you, Alan.
And thanks, y'all, for tuning in. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you.